On October 7, 2021, Newcastle United was sold for £300 million to a consortium led by the Saudi Public Investment Fund alongside PCP Capital Partners and the Reuben brothers. For supporters, it was the end of the Mike Ashley years, an era of neglect and stagnation, and the beginning of something new. But beginnings are rarely easy. The takeover was announced days after a home defeat to Tottenham.
Newcastle's new era ends in a defeat at the hands of Tottenham Hotspur.
Newcastle sat winless, stranded in 19th place. Within weeks, Steve Bruce was gone.
Newcastle United have confirmed that Steve Bruce has left his position as head coach.
The search for a new manager included grand names like Unai Emery, Antonio Conte, even Zinedine Zidane. In the end, the choice was not a superstar manager, but Eddie Howe, a man rebuilding his reputation after relegation with Bournemouth.
Well, it feels fantastic to be head coach of Newcastle. I'm absolutely honoured, privileged. It's an incredible moment in my life.
When Howe walked into St James Park in November 2021, Newcastle weren't just near relegation, they were broken. The table said 19th, the football said hopeless, and the fans, though newly filled with belief, knew hope without direction could quickly fade. Howe arrived not as a savior, but as a builder. Behind the quiet voice stood a manager preparing for the greatest reconstruction of his career. He didn't inherit stars, he inherited scars, a fractured squad, drained of confidence and stripped of identity. For years, Newcastle's story had been one of near misses and decline. 2 relegations in a decade, a 5th place finish in 2012, followed by a crash to 16th. Mid-table anonymity under Ashley's ownership, a club of rich history and empty years. For too long, one of England's proudest clubs had been left drifting.
Fortunately, the gaffer arrived, and yes, everything changed.
Howe's first task wasn't tactical, it was cultural. The training ground changed overnight. Tempo rose, standards were reset, discipline, detail, unity, non-negotiable. Survival wouldn't come from luck, it had to be earned.
I want to see the type of football that entertains, that excites people, and I think that's the type of football that Newcastle supporters want. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice and suffering in terms of the players giving everything that they have.
Game, we're going to do 5 rounds.
It was definitely about just trying to get some positivity into the whole thing, really, the whole football club, and trying to get the players to play with more confidence. I think they were probably the 2 things. I think we found a really honest, hard-working group. There was no problem with the application of the group, the togetherness. I think everyone realised that there was only one way we were going to transport ourselves out of the position that we were in, and that was through fighting for the club.
From the first day you came in, you sort of have a feeling towards someone, and you can tell by the first interactions you have if people are genuine or not, and so yeah, I can't speak highly enough of them.
Early matches were brutal. Wins didn't come immediately. Pressure immense.
But looking back, it was a time of pressure, and we needed instant results. At the start was, I think, the key thing. I think we needed a launch pad, and we needed to win a game of football, but we had some difficult fixtures early on.
Howe never wavered, philosophy unwavering, belief instilled. Slowly, Newcastle found their footing.
Us to reward the supporters for how they'd backed us and supported us in the early weeks. We battled and hung on. You're battling, the primary objective is to stay in the league. You're feeling every game that you can't wait any longer to start your resurgence, really. And I think we saw within the squad that there was talent there. There was really good togetherness and a really good honesty from the group when we came in. So it was a case of just trying to get the players to build on their confidence levels. Unfortunately, that's what happened. I think the win at Ellen Road, I think, was the turning point.
Shelby with the free kick. Oh, yes! All the way through from Shelby, in off Melier.
January 2022 became the turning point. Newcastle's transfer strategy, once scattergun, became deliberate. Kieran Trippier arrived from Atletico Madrid, bringing leadership and world-class delivery. Bruno Guimaraes, a Brazilian midfielder courted by Europe's elite, chose Newcastle, becoming the heartbeat of Howe's vision. Dan Burn returned home to anchor the defense. Chris Wood provided presence up front, while weakening relegation rivals Burnley.
Grateful from the gaffer for giving us a chance. It was a huge risk on his part. I think bringing me in probably wasn't someone that the fans particularly were buzzing about coming in. I'm just very, very thankful for him and everything that he's done for me.
In terms of the players that we knew had a good group, and sometimes you just need the right person to guide that group, take a dismantled sort of team in City and put all the pieces together.
It's amazing what it does for this place. It just gets uproar and everyone could see what he was trying to do. You could see he was playing this attacking, pressing football.
That home win over Leicester was so critical. They knew they needed a win. You just knew that it was on.
I remember it was towards the end of the season we still felt all right, but there was still that little bit of doubt. And when Bruno scored that goal, we just went absolutely crazy. I felt like he was a Geordie already, like after a few games, that he just loved the place.
Each signing fit a system, each addition reshaped the culture. The results were astonishing. Newcastle won 12 of their final 18 matches, climbing from 19th to 11th. In doing so, they became the first team in Premier League history to survive after failing to win any of their first 14 games. Howe had done more than rescue them. He had laid the foundations for a new era. Newcastle were unrecognizable. Once the league's weakest defense, they became one of its strongest. But this wasn't chance. During his 18 months out of work after Bournemouth, Howe had sought answers. He traveled to Europe, studying the methods of coaches he admired. At Atletico Madrid, he watched Diego Simeone's teams defend with ferocity and organization. Newcastle's pressing, compact shape, and controlled aggression came not from instinct, but from deliberate evolution. Howe was no longer just the attacking coach of Bournemouth. He had become a tactician forged in reflection. They transformed into a wall. Burn and incoming Botman in the following transfer window formed a calm, commanding partnership. Cher, once frozen out, thrived as a ball-playing defender. Trippier's influence went beyond his position. He became captain in all but name. Defense was no longer damage control. It was a foundation for ambition. Then came the press, aggressive, orchestrated, relentless, with wingers aggressively hunting goalkeepers. Midfielders suffocated passing lanes, while centre-backs stepped into midfield. When the press broke, they collapsed into a disciplined block. Newcastle were no longer reacting to games. They were dictating them. But Howe's genius wasn't just tactical, it was transformational. Miguel Almiron, once dismissed as a flop, delivered his best season with 11 goals. Joelinton, written off as a failed striker, was reborn as a powerhouse midfielder. Jacob Murphy, once expendable, became indispensable. Howe gave them clarity, confidence, and a role on and off the pitch. And as a result of his excellent player management, the players gave him performances few believed possible.
Taking a player like Miggy, just looking at his strengths and trying to build on those strengths and find ways to improve those strengths and make them even greater for the team. He's someone that really embraced the training, embraced the work, embraced the individual work, and then reaped the benefits. Had an incredible season, scored an enormous amount of goals, not just goals in itself, but important goals for the team. Delighted for him personally because he's such an infectious, warm personality. So he would be sort of a standout point really in terms of just trying to get the best out of the individual, and that's what we'll always try to do.
Trying to get away and does. Almiron into the area, goes around Longley. Almiron has scored! Newcastle have got a second goal. Miguel Almiron just can't stop scoring. It's a brilliant solo run from the Paraguayan.
Proved me as a player, not only me but players that were here before him. I changed my position and I think so. But in general, I think his mentality, his passion, his desire to work every day, to work hard, to improve. I always try to give it back to him, the belief he gave to me in the support in difficult times, and we always stay together and fight. And yes, so every time I step on the pitch, I just try to help the team and do what he asked me to do.
recruitment remained smart. In 2022, Newcastle broke their transfer record for Alexander Isak, an elegant, ruthless striker who would blossom into one of the Premier League's finest forwards. Anthony Gordon arrived raw from Everton, but under Howe grew into a fearless winger capable of deciding big matches. While in the following season, Sandro Tonali's signing from AC Milan showed Newcastle could now outbid Europe's giants. By the end of the 2022-23 season, Newcastle had reached heights unimaginable just a year before, fourth in the Premier League, Champions League football for the first time in 2 decades. And if you're enjoying the video so far, a simple subscribe would mean a lot. By the end of the 2022-23 season, Newcastle had reached heights unimaginable just a year before, fourth in the Premier League, Champions League football for the first time in 2 decades, a Carabao Cup final, their first major final since 1999.
It's ready. Newcastle United, get ready.
The club's not won a trophy in so long, and obviously they want to be the first staff to do it, and we want to be the first group of players to do it.
Luke Shaw, left-footed delivery, headed into the net. The opening goal goes the way of Manchester United. Edge of the area, danger here. Rashford. It's 2-0. It's gone over Karius. It might have taken a touch, but Newcastle have got big problems now.
Though defeat came at Wembley, it only underlined how far they had come, and how quickly. The following season brought new challenges.
Anybody who says there's no way they should be allowed in English football, you can't disagree.
A lot of people are saying that.
Yeah, and you can't disagree with that point.
As injuries mounted, while financial rules restricted spending, European football stretched a thin squad, yet Newcastle still finished 7th, with Alexander Isak scoring 21 league goals, second only to Erling Haaland and Cole Palmer. Anthony Gordon became one of England's brightest wingers. Bruno Guimaraes grew into one of the most complete midfielders in world football. Behind the scenes, Dan Ashworth's arrival as sporting director had helped shape recruitment, and when Ashworth controversially departed for Manchester United in 2024, Newcastle lost a valuable architect. But Howe proved the project was never dependent on one man above him. He carried the weight himself, ensuring the vision remained intact. Behind the scenes, Paul Mitchell's new arrival as sporting director after Ashworth was seen as a masterstroke. A renowned strategist, he shaped recruitment and structure. But it wasn't without friction. Howe, a meticulous manager who demanded control, clashed over targets and authority.
But when you're Eddie Howe and you've been there for 2 years and you came in when that club was bottom of the league, you saved them.
Yep.
You then was involved in transfers and bringing players in that propelled that club to a Champions League position, which was pretty unbelievable. And then a sporting director's coming in. Now, if he's coming in throwing his weight about, and he's only been there 2 minutes, and you've been when the club's been here, and now you've got it to a stable position, and he's almost dictating to you.
Tension simmered quietly, even as results soared. Even under pressure and turmoil, Eddie Howe didn't falter. By 2024, Newcastle weren't defying expectations. They were setting them. Champions League nights returned to St James Park. Cup finals became familiar. And finally, in Wembley's glare in the Carabao Cup final, when Dan Burn thundered in a goal and Alexander Isak sealed victory.
It's Newcastle United.
It wasn't just silverware, it was release. Decades of frustration washed away in one cathartic moment. Eddie Howe had not only changed results, he had changed Newcastle United. From survival to silverware, from doubt to belief, from chaos to clarity, from a club drifting into irrelevance to one daring to dream again. Today, Newcastle no longer ask if they belong among England's elite. The question is how far they can go. Howe, once dismissed after Bournemouth's relegation, has become the architect of a new era, and for the Magpies, backed by ambition, driven by discipline, and united by belief, the story is only just beginning. And if you would like more videos like this one, be sure to simply subscribe. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later.